Hello and welcome to the show. So I have a woman who I've been so excited to chat to, and not only because I have read her book and she is wonderful, but I've been following her for a very long time, and I feel like this woman is so real and raw and keeps me grounded actually when I read your post, Nicole. So I've got Nicole Kalil here with me, and Nicole's passion for eliminating gender expectations and redefining women's work is both what keeps her up at night but definitely what gets her up in the morning, and that an abundant amount of coffee, she tells us, of course, and I'm sure a lot of us can understand that. She is an in-demand speaker, a leadership strategist, a respected coach, and the host of This Is Women's Work podcast. Her stalker-like obsession with confidence really sets her apart from the constant stream of experts telling us just to be confident. She actually tells us how to build it and gives us actionable tools, not just stories, to become confident. She considers herself a fugitive of the C-suite at a Fortune 100 company. She has coached hundreds of women in business, which has given her an insight as to what structurally, systematically, and socially is and isn't serving women and leaders within an organization. So good morning, Nicole. Gosh, it's so good to have you here all the way from the USA.
It's so good to be here. Thank you for having me. And I have to say, Jessica, I've been following you longer than you've been following me. When you were on my podcast, it was like a coup. My team was so excited that you had said yes and all that. So thank you for having me and for reaching out.
Oh, it's absolutely my pleasure. So this last year was a really big year for you, Nicole. There was the launch of your book. And I remember reading the name of your book. And for everybody listening, so the name of Nicole's book is Validation is for Parking. And I read this and I thought, gosh, I need to take some tips from Nicole, because this is one of the best names of a book I've ever seen. So maybe let's start with the book and the purpose of the book here. So you speak about confidence in this book, and I'm sure we'll delve into what it is, what it isn't. But one of the biggest things you go into is the confidence con. So can you share with us what do you mean by the confidence con? What is that? What have we been tricked into believing?
Yeah. So I have this fundamental belief that so many of us lack confidence because we have no idea what it actually is. And we've been sold a bag of goods. We've been told mixed and false messages from a very young age everywhere we look. And I call this the confidence con. It's basically all the messaging we receive that tells us something other than what confidence is. So examples. First, we hear a lot about what confidence looks like, much more than what it actually feels like or what it is to be or become confident. And in that, there's also the element that we are being told over and over again that confidence is going to come to us or be built from something outside of ourselves. It's something external. And I call it the false equation. And it goes like this: if X happens, then I'll feel confident. And you can fill in X with just about anything. If I reach a certain level of income, then I'll feel confident. If I fit into a certain size or the scale says a certain amount, then I'll feel confident. If I have perfectly behaved children, then I'll feel confident. The list goes on and on and on. The problem with that, though, is that it is something that we're waiting for, as if something or someone out there is holding on to our confidence, and our job is to go and find it and get it to give it to us. And that is the con in my mind. This separation of confidence from our self and our power.
Yeah, I think that's a great, clear explanation, because that's definitely been it for me as well. It's always the outside world. And when you just said there, it's more so what it looks like rather than what it feels like. So, as you grow up and you're a young woman and you think, oh, shopping at that store is going to work, and that makes people believe that I'm confident. If I speak in a certain way, that portrays I'm confident. Not and how it feels on the inside feels really, it doesn't feel genuine. It doesn't feel authentic at all. So I'm curious for you, as the journey that you've gone on then with confidence within yourself, what's the difference in feeling? You know, for somebody listening here and they're like, yeah, I know I feel insecure, but what does it actually feel like to be confident? So what has it felt like for you? How did you know you reached, yeah, I can
Right.
say I'm confident now?
Yeah. So, my sort of quest to uncover and discover what confidence actually is, and how we build it and what it feels like, stemmed from a period of time in my life where I looked extremely confident, but felt on the inside as if I had none of it. I checked all the boxes, right? I was, achieving professional success. I'd bought my second home by the time I was 30. I was driving the nice car and had the nice clothes, and I was the successful, independent woman on the rise with my who needs a man attitude, right? And it looked really good. But on the inside, I was dying. Like I was not comfortable in my own skin. I had a high level of imposter syndrome. I was exceptionally lonely. I share in the book, I didn't attempt suicide, but I contemplated it. And it was that moment of recognition that people around me would be shocked because what they saw and how it was in direct conflict. And so that and I had people often commenting on how confident I was, and it was like it made my skin crawl. It was so uncomfortable to hear that because I knew it wasn't true.
Sure.
And so that began what is ultimately this lifelong journey that I'm on to really delve into confidence. So to answer your question, what does it feel like to be confident? Well, let's start to feel confident. Let's start with what confidence actually is. If you go to the root, to the etymology of the word, fundamentally what confidence means is firm and bold trust in oneself.
Mm-hmm.
So confidence is when you trust yourself. And that doesn't mean that you know all the answers or you have all the answers or you have everything figured out. We're not talking about perfectionism, which I think can be a little bit confusing. Trusting yourself isn't that you know all the answers. Trusting yourself is that you know you'll be able to figure it out. Trusting yourself isn't, I know I'm going to get this result. Trusting yourself is knowing you'll be okay even if you don't. And I mean, the list goes on. So, what does it feel like to be confident? The honest answer is it feels all the things, right? It feels exciting and joyful and proud, but it also feels scary and full of doubts and fear. Why? Because confidence is the choice, the action we make in the face of all of those things. Again, confidence is when we trust ourselves. The reality is it's pretty easy to trust myself when everything's going according to plan, when I'm winning, when I'm achieving, right? Trusting myself in those moments is fairly easy, but choosing to trust myself and to get into action towards what matters in the times where nothing's going according to plan, when I'm full of fear, when I'm having doubts, that's, in my opinion, where the real magic happens. So I know I said feeling confident, but I would add to this. I have learned that confidence is much more of a choice than it is a feeling.
I literally had goosebumps through your whole explanation there, because it's such a paradigm shift what you've just explained around what it is and who we need to show up as. And I wonder then, and you did mention perfectionism, and I know you mention it, you do mention it in your book as well. So what's the relationship between this world of perfectionism and the lack of confidence in our world and for women? So what's the relationship? Why is it such a struggle to get out of this perfectionism world or desire that we have?
Yeah. So first, let me state what the relationship is, and I want to state this as strongly as possible. Perfectionism is the enemy of confidence. Like it is that much, it's that problematic, especially for us as women. Okay, so where does perfectionism come from? Well, it's again this messaging we get from very young ages that how things look, how we show up, that we are good and polite and nice and kind and easy, and we don't ruffle feathers and we don't get messy and we don't get, all these things that are being told to us as little girls, really lend to that messaging. And then don't even get me started on advertising and the media and movies and social media, all this messaging that we get that we're supposed to have it all, be it all, do it all, and look good while doing it, and somehow make it look all effortless, right? So the reason that this chips away at our confidence is, first, it's unattainable, it's unachievable. We can't help but fall short. And we are not giving ourselves the opportunity to trust ourselves if it's all focused on, how it looks and all the ducks in a row. I'll also add, one of the things that's problematic about perfectionism is it creates distance in relationships, the relationships we have on a personal level with our spouse or significant others or friends or our children. It also creates distance on a professional level, because what we're unconsciously saying to the people around us is, if you don't live up to this standard, then you don't belong in my space. There's no place for messiness. There's no space for mistakes or failures or and I know that is the opposite of what we're trying to accomplish when we go towards perfectionism, but it is ultimately the enemy of confidence, and it's so problematic. And as a recovering perfectionist myself, and I catch myself falling into those tendencies, especially when I'm under stress, we really have to be careful about that. That is a huge confidence derailer. It chips away at and does damage to our confidence.
Yeah. And when you were just speaking, then this catchphrase popped into my mind that we really hear all of the time. And I'm curious to hear your opinion on it, is women can have it all. Okay. There's this catchphrase. And I'm curious then what your opinion is on that when we think about the world of perfectionism. And you just said we have to look the part, feel the part, do the part, all of the parts, and look effortless doing it, right? That's the perceived expectation. So with this catch cry that we do here, I'm interested, what's your view on that catch cry and that catchphrase as women, as a woman?
I'm so glad you asked that. It's so funny. I've been noodling on that because it's one of those things that it still doesn't sit well with me. So what I've come to is this: nobody, regardless of gender, can have it all, right? Like there are always trade-offs. There are always sacrifices to make. There is always the fact that when you say yes to one thing, you're fundamentally saying no to something else. We all are, time is fixed and neutral. We all have the same amount of it. Nobody's managing a 25th hour in a day. So what we are all fundamentally going back to are the choices that we make with the time that we have. And no matter what, we must make choices. We can't be in all places at all times. We can't be everything for all people without sacrificing ourselves. So conceptually, regardless of gender, nobody can have it all, right? I think where sometimes I go to is that expression for me often goes back to whether or not we can have a career and a family, whether or not we can have it all, meaning professional success as well as personal success. To that, I absolutely believe we can. Because I think that anyone can if they make the best and most important choices. So I make sacrifices in order to be professionally successful, present and engaged with my daughter, and build and maintain the marriage that I'm so proud of. But those are my priorities. Everything else is just noise. All of my decisions are aligned over those three things. And I do, not all the time, but I do generally feel like I have it all. But what I mean is I have what matters most to me.
Mm,
And I
that's
make
interesting.
the decisions so clearly focused on that. And there's lots of sacrifices that I make in order to do that, that somebody else might look at it and go, she doesn't have it all. She doesn't have X, Y, and Z. You're right. But it's just not important to me, or not as
Mm.
important as the other things. So I don't know if I answered your question, but
Yeah, you
that's
answered
my
it
2 cents.
beautifully. Yeah. It's almost like the precursor to being able to say that for ourselves is really digging deep and understanding what matters to us. And it is having the confidence to do that, because in order to do that, we have to strip away all of the conditioning, strip away all of the advertising cues and the propaganda and the infiltration information that we get given on a daily basis. So to figure out what it is for us. And you're right, it did start with, women being able to work and be a mum and have that. And it's interesting how the most well-intentioned catchphrase or the most well-intentioned advice, the longer it continues on, it picks up different connotations and different meanings. And I think that's what's happened for us today, in that it is women can have it all, everything, and at the same time, right here and right now. And I've absolutely that is what I wanted all of the time. I'm a very impatient person, and I want everything right here and right now. And I often think to myself, but they say women can have it all. So obviously there's women out there who have it all. Why don't I have it all? There's something wrong with me then. And then I get frustrated, angry at myself. And I remember having a conversation with my sister about this. And she said to me something that has really helped with the impatience of my being at times. And she said, Jess, you absolutely can have it all. Whatever it is that you desire, you can absolutely have it all. You just might not have it all at that one time. In the 20s, you have that one thing. In your 30s or early 30s, it's that other one thing. In your 40s, it's the other one thing. She said, you can have it all in your lifetime, but you may not have it all at 35 years old. And so when she said that to me, I thought I got a feeling of the bigger picture, right? The really bigger picture. This is a long-term race we're living here. This is not just, 35 years old, 40 years old, and let's have it all right here, right now. And so I know in your book, it's very practical. You give a lot of practical tools, which is so great, and a lot of exercises as well. So how do we start building our confidence then, Nicole? So what actually works for us as women?
So I identified 5 of what I considered to be the biggest confidence builders that are fairly universal, meaning any one of us can implement them anytime we want, and they will build our confidence. And so the 5 confidence builders, and I'll go through them quickly, and then we can dive into any one that you want. Action. Action builds confidence. You can't hope, think, or fingers and toes cross your fingers and toes cross your way into it. You act. And I don't mean act as in like fake it. I mean act as in getting in motion towards what matters. So action builds confidence. The second confidence builder is failure. And I know that's the most surprising one. And I use that word because it has a strong reaction for people, but you could say failure, making mistakes, fear, doubt, overcoming losses, whatever you want to call it. Those are confidence builders. The third one is giving yourself grace on the journey. How we communicate to ourselves about ourselves really matters. The fourth one is choosing confidence, and it's really distinguishing it from a feeling and putting ourselves back in that powerful place of understanding that we can choose to trust ourselves anytime we want. And frankly, we're doing this far more frequently in our lives and our day-to-day lives than we give ourselves credit for. And then finally, that fifth big confidence builder is all the internal work that we can do to begin to or restore or build or develop the trust we have in ourselves. And there are a lot of ways we can do this, but I would invite you to think of how you would build trust with another, or how somebody builds trust with you. That probably gives you the most amount of insight into what matters to you personally, individually, as it relates to trust. So for me, when people keep their commitments, that's a trust builder. When I stand up for myself, when people, if somebody were talking badly about me and they didn't stand up for me, I probably would lose trust in that person. When people speak their truth and say, this is how I see it. Truth tellers, that's a trust builder for me. And then take that information and turn it back on yourself. In my example, how do I better keep the commitments I make to others, but mostly to myself, right? Because I have a tendency to take the commitments I make to myself, shove them aside in order to meet the commitments I make to others, like my child, my husband, my work, how do I stand up for myself in the moments where it feels important, even if standing up for myself just means walking out of the room? Even if I don't have the right words yet, just sending the message, I'm not standing here for this, right? And how do I speak my truth? So those are just some examples. Those might not be the big trust builders for you, but I would invite you to think about what are the important factors for trust building in your life, and then begin to practice and apply them to yourself.
I love that example, because what we see in others is often what we, need or see in ourselves, right? The projecting of values onto others. So to do that exercise is really, really helpful. And you also talk about and I don't feel like you've mentioned it so far, but the biggest derailers as well. So I know you've got the builders, which we've just been through, and we might dig deeper into one or two of them, but the biggest derailers to confidence, then, just in case we are doing this, I could be doing some of these too. So what are they that you've been able to identify?
So I'll share the 5 confidence derailers. These are the things that are chipping away and doing damage to our confidence, whether we're aware of them or not. So said another way, we could focus entirely on the builders, but if we're not aware of the derailers, we end up sort of feeling like we're on that hamster wheel, right? We're doing a lot of work, but something keeps pulling us back. And I have yet to meet a woman who doesn't hear the 5 derailers and identify with at least one of them, if not all 5 of them. So the first confidence derailer is perfectionism, which we talked about already. That's a big one, especially for women. The second confidence derailer is what I call head trash. Other people call it the inner critic or negative thoughts. It's the things we say to ourselves about ourselves that are never kind, very rarely true, but we interact with them as if they're factual, right? Like, oh, I'm such a loser, or what's wrong with me, or I'm the worst parent, or, there's so many things we say, and none of them are based in fact, but we engage with them as if they are. The third confidence derailer is judgment and comparison. When we compare ourselves to others and fall short, or when we compare ourselves and feel better about ourselves by judging ourselves or others, these are, just confidence derailers. The fourth one is overthinking. Thinking is not a problem. Overthinking is a problem because it leads to inaction, and inaction leads to our biggest regrets. And then finally, the fifth confidence derailer is really the crux of the confidence con. It's all the things that we do to try to seek and attain confidence externally. It's,
Yeah. All of those.
That false equation.
Yeah. Let's see. Yep, I could tick every box there. That's good. So there's a lot for me to work on there.
Like today. I can probably tick all those boxes today.
Yeah.
And
so
I'm aware of them being derailers,
sure.
so
Yeah. And so let's say we're aware of them, Nicole, right? I'll speak about, I'd say in the last 6 months, the one that has been the biggest impactor of my confidence and my self-worth, without a shadow of a doubt, would be comparison. That has been a huge challenge for me in the past 6 months. So, let's say for the women out there listening, she also feels like comparison is a huge hindrance to her self-worth, her value, her joy, her feeling confident. Okay, I'm aware of that. I compare. What to do then? So what would be that first little step where I want to get a handle of this comparison challenge that I have.
Yeah. So this is a big one for everybody, and there's lots of tips here, but the biggest thing I want to say is if you can look at the comparison that you're making from a neutral place and ask yourself, what is this telling me about me?
Mhm.
Now, this is hard to not do it with like, a snarky or like, what's wrong with me, from a completely neutral place, from an observation place. What
Mhm.
is this comparison and my feelings about it telling me about me? Is
Mhm.
it giving me some insight into a desire?
Mhm.
Is it giving me some insight into an experience, a feeling, an emotion that I want to have that I'm not currently having? Is it giving me some insight into what my goals might be? Is it, you know, so coming from that sort of neutral place, because com- the judgment that comes from comparison. So usually what we're talking about is more the judgment that comes from it. When we can compare
Mhm.
ourselves, like if I go just from a factual basis, my business generated this amount of income and this person's business generated this amount of income and I have no feelings about it. That's a comparison.
Mhm.
But what triggers is the
Mhm.
judgment. Oh my gosh, this person is so much better than I am. I am a talentless hack. Nobody will ever listen to what I have to say ever again, right? Like that's the stuff. But here's the thing about judgment. It gives us more insight into the person judging than it does the person being judged.
Mhm.
And so if we think about these comparisons and the judgments that come from them from a neutral place, it might just give us some insight into a desire, into a fear, into a feeling or an experience that we're
Mhm.
looking for. I want to
Yeah.
say two other very quick things. First, let's make sure that we're comparing like with like. A lot of times we compare what it looks like on the outside with somebody else to how it feels like on
Mhm.
the inside with us. So, like,
Mhm.
social media is an example I use all the time. What
Yeah.
we see on social media is what people want us to see. We see somebody's best moments, their highest achievements, exaggerations, sometimes outright lies. We see what people want
Mhm.
us to see. And then we have the audacity to compare our behind the scenes, our everyday, normal, messy lives to these little blips. And of course, if we do that, it's like comparing apples and airplanes. They don't belong in the same category, and yet we do it all the time. So it's
We
just,
do.
yeah,
They're
some
really, really great tips. Really great tips, and very tangible too. And the neutrality, um, and just in case this helps anybody listening. So for me, what I needed to do, it was with a few women that I was comparing myself to. And it's interesting because it was the fact that I'm probably a bit more introverted in nature.
me too.
Yeah. And so I'm comparing myself to the extroverts of my circle, and that they seem happier, they seem more joyful, they seem more expressive, and I feel like I lack expression because I'm not overt and really bold, and I think to myself, well, that's probably why they have their successes in their life, because they're bold and expressive and extrovert. So I compare and I compare, and all I'm doing is telling myself where I'm failing, and it builds and it builds to self-hatred, and it did for me, and where I needed to get to, and really focus on getting to that place of neutrality was so challenging. But what I needed to see and feel was, well, what are the benefits of being me? And what it really
Mm,
took, I couldn't do this alone, by the way. And I had a chat with one of them, and luckily, one of them, we have very open conversations, and we got to talking about our personalities and our characters and what we feel and think about them. And it's fascinating when I did this, and then they told me the same things, like, I wish I could be as calm as you, Jess. I wish I could be as as calm in hectic or chaotic scenarios. I wish I didn't react like I do, and be like you. And I was like, that's really interesting. And so
yeah.
I started to see the strengths of me being me, instead of me thinking that I need to be that person in order to live a better life. And I think until we get to that place where we find those really beautiful parts of ourselves and how it's beneficial, positive, and how it's special too. Each one of us has those special parts that's needed.
I couldn't agree more. The working definition of confidence I use in the book is when you know who you are, own who you're not, and choose to embrace all of it. And what you just shared is so relatable to me. I'm also an extreme introvert, and the bulk of my work is in speaking engagements. And I was comparing myself to all these motivational speakers, and like, oh my God, I don't have the energy. I don't have the charisma, all the things. And I had all this noise about it. You know what is the most frequent feedback I get when I speak? I love how she shares tactical real life experiences. I feel like I can actually do something. A lot of times I feel good when I hear a speaker, but I don't have anything to do with it. Or, I liked how real she was. I felt like I could trust her. Like when I stopped trying to be something I cannot be and started really leaning hard into who I am and embracing what I'm not, that's when things really started clicking and working for me. And it made it easier, by the way, to find my people. I am not everybody's meant for me. I'm not meant for everybody. I have a quote you can see literally right behind me. It says, you will be too much for some people. Those aren't your people. And so I fundamentally believe my job is to trust myself, put myself out there, and the right people for me will find me.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And it leads me to my next question then around children. Okay. And you're a mum, and there's a lot of mums listening to this. And in the work that I do with parents, one of the biggest things that they come to me with is, I really want my child to be confident. They also use resilience, but confidence is such a big word that they use. And I'm curious to know, what can we do as parents to create that confidence or help support that confidence within our children, and not have it be something that they find or relate to at the age of 35, 40, 45, like we've had to do.
Like us.
So, yeah, that's right. So what is it that we could be doing with our kids within this world of confidence?
Yeah. So first, full disclosure, I am not an expert on parenting. And so if whatever it is that I say, you decipher through it for yourself, and Jessica, I would lean on you too, because this is your area of expertise. But just a few things I've learned about confidence that I think are really important to apply to parenting that I'm really testing out and with my child. First, we as humans learn best and most via experience, observation, and example. You can tell something to someone till you're blue in the face, and so I often, almost flippantly say, if you want your kid to be confident, or then be confident yourself. Give them something to observe and experience. And again, this doesn't mean having all the answers or being perfect. This means demonstrating trusting yourself on a regular basis, sharing the messy parts and how you're going to trust yourself through those things too. So that's one piece. The second piece is a loving reminder that action builds confidence. And so reinforcing the actions, the things that are within our child's control, above and beyond the outcomes and the results. So I always use the soccer game analogy. I always focus on the effort my child put in, whether or not she was a good teammate, whether or not she picked herself up, fell down, much more on whether or not she scored goals or what the score was at the end of the game or anything like that. So focusing on the actions and the efforts. And then, as painful as this is, a loving reminder that failure builds confidence. We must, if you really, really, truly want confident children, you must allow them to fail, to mess up, to make mistakes. And to support them in trusting themselves to recover and not do it for them, right? Let them do the hard parts. Let them say the I'm sorries. Let them clean up their messes. Be there, love them, support them. Know that, my daughter and I do this thing rather than saying, how much does mommy love you? I always ask, when does mommy love you? And her response is all the time. When does mommy love you? All the time. Even when I'm traveling, yes. Even when I'm frustrated, yes. Even when I'm in the bathroom, yes. She's 9, so poop jokes are all the rage right now. But like my goal in this is for her to understand that she's loved all the time, no matter what, regardless of performance, outcomes, good, bad, whatever. She's loved all the time. But her opportunity is to build that trust. My opportunity is to help her build that trust in herself, and simultaneously, gosh, I can't talk right now, simultaneously demonstrate the trust that I have in myself so she can see what that looks like.
Yeah, such a beautiful summary. And I think we often get lost in the task of creating it for somebody else because that seems easier than creating it for ourselves. And I see this a lot when I do work with parents, and it often, separation anxiety is a big thing. Anxiety in general is a big thing. There's a lot of fear within children at the moment, which is, the lack of confidence, the lack of self-trust. Anxiety shows up when there's not those things happening for that child or for the parents. And I think what you've just shared in that, let's create it for ourselves first. So there is that example is critical. Words are easier, actions are harder, and yet actions are by far long-term the most effective, without a doubt. So yeah, that's a great summary. Thanks, Nicole. And so the final question for today, we have 5 short bursts of questions actually that I'll get your one answer. I didn't tell you at the start, actually. They're easy, don't worry.
That's okay. Hey, I'm in. Let's go.
Yeah. So for you, in the toughest of days that you experience, and also the women that you work with too, in the toughest of days where it's really hard to believe that everything's going to be okay, that you're still worthy, that the outside world is really not out to get us, but it feels like it is, right? In the toughest of days, how do you maintain that sense of self-trust? What's the one thing you turn to personally that somebody out there could say, yeah, I'm just going to try that one thing because it works for Nicole. I might start there. Or what would you suggest as that one thing?
So I am really mindful of my communication to myself on the toughest days. I ask myself, would I say this to somebody I love? And if the answer is no, if I wouldn't say the thoughts that I'm having in my own mind to my best friend or my partner or my child, then I catch myself and stop saying it to myself. So, because we should fundamentally, first and foremost, be somebody that we love. And that doesn't mean always, like, I challenge the people I love. I am a truth teller. That doesn't mean glossing over everything and making everything beautiful and perfect. It just means communicating from a place of love with myself during those hard days and those hard moments.
Done and dusted for me. That's what I'll be focusing on too then. With everyone out there listening, that's the number one, the most simple but effective thing that we can start doing. So are you ready for these 5 questions?
I am. Let's do it.
Let's do it. So very simple, and doesn't matter if they feel, you'll channel what's right for you. So let's just see what happens. It can be a sentence, it can be one word, whatever you feel, Nicole. So
okay.
Fill in the blank of this one. Self-expression is
sexy.
Ooh, I like that. What do children need most from their parents?
Love and acceptance.
Mm-hmm. What common belief about child behavior do you disagree with?
Oh, this is going to be a hard one because you might fundamentally disagree with me. Um, I believe that all people, children included, thrive when they have a predictable environment. And so I think boundaries and uh, saying no and holding a safe space for children is really important.
Mm-hmm. What are you currently working on within yourself?
I am in this stage of curiosity. So I'm very much a doer. I'm very action oriented by nature, planner, strategy, blah, blah, blah. I mentioned this to you when we started our time together today. This is the very first time I've gone into a year. I have no business plan. I have no tactics. I have no strategies. Like I'm still working, but I am in this place of curiosity and listening to that really quiet inner voice that sometimes gets lost in all of the noise and all of the shuffle, to really be curious about what's next for me, what's meant for me, what no longer serves me, what am I not meant for anymore, that type of thing.
Mm. What does a happy home mean to you?
I mean, I'm such a homebody. For me, it's just the place where I can fundamentally be myself and know that I'm okay. Everybody's okay. There is love and support and joy. And the word safe keeps popping
Mm.
up for me. And I don't just mean physically safe, but
Mm.
mentally and emotionally. Um,
Mm.
yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you. Well, Nicole, I've loved this conversation so much, truly, truly.
Me
And
too.
you're an absolute superstar. There's no doubt about it, how you've explained everything to us today. So for everybody listening, the book is called Validation for Parking. I'm going to have the links up in the show notes for everybody to see. You can see it in the background if you are watching it by video, but it's red. Keep a lookout for it. Go and search for it. And Nicole, if somebody's listening though, where's the best place to search for the book?
Yeah, I wish this weren't the case, but Amazon is the best and easiest. Unfortunately, a lot of local booksellers don't quite have it yet, a few, but Amazon for now, or have your bookstore order it. I'm a big proponent of supporting our local bookstores.
Awesome.
But yeah.
Awesome. Well, Nicole, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Oh my gosh, thanks for having me. I always enjoy my time with you.
Thanks. Bye.